on to the actual ingredients of a project and adaptive logistics solutions. And as we say, logistics is a very general term, and it also includes a supply chain challenge. And especially for ATMPs, some of the most notable supply chain challenges have to do with the fact that they're extremely temperature sensitive. And they are also high labile, which means that they can easily be broken down, and we don't have, alluding to what I said before, we don't have much room for error. So the product must remain in the right temperature and get to the patients in the right time. And sometimes within the case, as we can see later on in the case studies, if we lose a very narrow time window, then we're just not going to get the product to the patient ever. So the combination between temperature sensitive, highly labile product and time sensitive is how we would group the most serious challenges of ATMP supply chain. And how we tackle those challenges is via a network of GMP and ISO certified storage facilities across the globe and highly trained operatives. And it's also very important to note in this respect that this is not something that is only developed recently for the sake of ATMP. But the concept of obviously GMP facilities and highly trained operatives has been around for years. All the years throughout, we've been providing services for clinical research. But this is a foundation that we are using and further boosting and expanding in order to serve ATMP challenges. On the technical side, fully validated shippers and Dewar flasks in the case of liquid nitrogen delivery, which is very characteristic in some cases of ATMPs, are part of the service, and also having a very robust framework to do that. And also, of course, ultra-low temperature. So for ATMP products, we see more and more cases whereby we need to implement LN2 and ULT, so liquid nitrogen and -80 cold chain. So just to sum up, this is all based on the existence of a robust cold chain and stringent procedures. This is always the foundation for a successful cold chain delivery. Just to sum up this slide, this is the supply chain element of the project and tackling those specific temperature sensitive and high lability and time sensitive characteristics. That's the challenge of ATMP supply. And moving over to one other ingredient in the adaptive solutions is what we call a DXP. DXP stands for either direct to patient, which is DTP, or direct from patient, which is DFP. And those services are obviously part of the concept of decentralized trials and part of the concept of listening to a patient voice and facilitating the support of recruitment and retention. And in general, this service has three main schemes. One of them is that the drug goes from the hub, so from an oxymio hub, directly to the patient without going through the site. The other scheme is going from the hub, from an oxymio hub to a medical site and to the patient. And within this scheme, we have two sub-schemes. It can either go to a site, stay there, or it can just go there and undergo site-specific procedures which are necessary by regulation, namely dispensing by pharmacists, etc., and then go straight to complete the journey to the patient. But at any rate, this is hub site patient. And in other cases, in a variety of circumstances, the drug is already at the site, and all we need to do is to complete the last mile delivery to the patient. So this is site to patient. The regulatory framework for DXP in general is not yet developed in all countries. It has received a lot of impetus and attention also due to the pandemic, and we feel that some of the changes and some of the leeway that we received from government authorities during the pandemic have definitely allowed irreversible changes in that we see a boost or an increasing speed in the implementation of DXP as an essential part of clinical trials. Maybe currently the most relevant aspect of DXP would be the direct from patient. And within direct from patient, we collect all kinds or relevant materials from the patient. It could be used medications or used packaging, and it could also be the collection of biosamples, be that urine biosamples or blood biosamples, and it could also be the results of questionnaires and monitoring of patients. So collection of materials from the patient for the long run is currently very relevant to ATMP research, which oftentimes includes commitment of developers and sponsors to keep monitoring patients for the long run, sometimes 10 to 15 years as per regulation. So this is very relevant. And perhaps we're going to have time to talk about it later on, but the direct-to-patient may become also more relevant for ATMPs as the technology changes and administration of ATMP sort of IMPs, not within a clinical site, also going to be made possible. And moving on to home healthcare, this is also a very important aspect of adaptive logistics and total client solution and patient comfort approach. This has also been very growing and again received a lot of impetus during the pandemic. And essentially within home healthcare, within a clinical trial, Oximio acts as a central integrator between the site, the sponsor and the CRO, and the patient. The patients are always the responsibility of the site and specifically the principal investigator. And principal investigators may delegate, according to regulations, certain parts of their authority in order for some of the parts of the protocol to be deliverable at the patient's home. This is where we come into action